I know Ant-Man and the Wasp are really, really small. But trust me when I say, just like my co-host, Ryan J. Marvel, they've got an enormous heart that cannot be contained. Welcome to Infinity Rewatch. I'm Andrew Fantasia.
What's up, everybody? I'm Ryan J. Whitehead, and today we're diving into the quantum realm.
What's the Wayne's World thing they do? Whoa!
Extreme close up.
I almost did a spit take right there, but it was worth it. That needs to happen. Wayne's World crossover with the MCU. Garth, I think that guy just snapped his fingers. Swing. Whoa, I think I'm gonna hurl.
It's sucking my will to live.
That'll be phase 9. That's when that's happening. Wow. So Ryan, speaking of a phase, first of all, how are you? Before we dive into Marvel here, how are you?
I am good. Emotionally, I'm in a good place. Just a lot of adulting going on. Got to deal with good old insurance policies and making sure the hydro's all settled and stuff like that. So, fans, I am being a real adult lately, and it's been quite the learning experience for sure.
I know adulting is such a bummer, and
it really is.
Wouldn't the world just be a better place if instead of insurance policies and credit scores, everyone everywhere just talked about like the Sinister Six all day, right?
I mean, it would be great. Actually, I watched a great review recently from a channel called Nerdstalgic. And Nerdstalgic, they did a wonderful video called "What Went Wrong with Kingdom of Crystal Skull." And it one little excerpt I gotta take from it, paraphrasing, of course, is that how do I phrase this? Is that there is a sense of stability and comfort in franchises, and when a franchise is done well, and the next good one is coming out, then there's that feeling of comfort. And it really provides a level of good entertainment stability, knowing that your plucky hero is going to go in and do something awesome, and it's going to be great. And that's why I do kind of wish the world was all about like talking about Sinister Six and stuff, because that's where stability and comfort comes from.
It's stability and comfort, and it's also joy and magic, and it's what we were put on this earth to do, is to spread love, spread magic, and tell stories, not make credit scores to keep the poor and the rich.
Exactly.
Boo. Also, I never understood. You talked about making sure your hydro was in proper order. To this day, I could live to be like 200 years old, Ryan. I will always, in my mind, confuse hydro for water, because that's what hydro is. But no, apparently hydro is electricity. So
yes.
To bring it all full circle to the Sinister Six, the villain Electro should have been Hydro Man. I guess that name was already taken. I don't get it. That's why creative people should name things, because I guarantee you the person who named Hydro what it was probably just some stuffy, pencil neck guy who's like credit scores. So
his name is John.
It's John, yeah. No surname. John.
No surname.
I am John from Accounts Receivable. That is all you need to know. Thankfully, there are no guys named John from Accounts Receivable.
Yeah. Well, and importantly, how are you doing? I know I keep seeing all this talk about books coming out, or you got buns in the oven. Is that what the phrase was?
I do have buns in the oven. I actually, damn it, I moved them to my bedroom. Otherwise, I would show you here. But everything is pretty much almost live and ready to go by Friday, this coming Friday, which is, let's see, 24th of February. I think that my math is right. 2023. You will see my books go live, my fantasy books that I've been working on for ages. The series is called We Were Wizards, and the first 2 books are going live this Friday, the 24th of February. And dude, it's quite a feeling, let me tell you. I feel like a proud papa, and they are I've scanned them all through. They are free of any typos and concerns we might have. So everything's ready to rock and roll. And I can't wait for my babies to go out into the world and flourish.
That is really exciting. It's really amazing to see you be able to commit and get the stuff done and be able to do that. You're the first and only author I know personally. So
thanks, brother. I'm looking forward to hopefully you being a fan too, because I know you'll dig these books.
Oh, I'm gonna buy the first edition. Buy my first edition. I'm gonna get them. I'm gonna get them autographed like I did the last one, and I'm very excited.
Just a word of warning, my autograph will diminish the value of the books. So if you want, I'll put like a Post-it note with my autograph. So when eBay day comes along, you can just, you'll be good. Looks like we got a comment from somebody watching, somebody named Sean Franklin. Hi, Sean Franklin. Sean wants to know, and I'm going to let you field this one, Ryan. Do you like Transformers? That's what Sean is asking. Sean, wait and hear what this gentleman has to say about Transformers.
I love Transformers. I've loved them since Generation 1 back in the 1980s. It was the best time to be alive. I'm not going to lie to you. And I love them through Beast Wars. Beast Machines kind of got a little too existential for my taste. And I like existential things, but it got a little too existential for my taste. And then there were many iterations. I love Transformers Armada. I have not seen I've seen bits and pieces of the show on Netflix, and I heard amazing things about it. But yeah, overall, I do love Transformers. The live action movies, I'll give the first one a slight pass, only because it was the first of its kind in a awkward time to kind of push that kind of content. And so I was very happy for it. In terms of when it came out, I saw it with my best friend here, and we had a great time. And so for me, what brought back a sign of hope was the Bumblebee movie after being convinced to watch it. And it was actually really entertaining. It was really good. Although Starscream did not last as long as I think he would in that movie. But that's not here and there. Am I excited about this Beast Wars movie that's coming out? Yes, I am. But it comes with a cautious optimism, is what I will describe it as. But I'll leave it at that. I mean, I got pretty elaborate there. But my favorite Transformers are as follows: Optimus Prime, Jazz, and Soundwave. Those are my top three. And in the Beast Wars, I love Primal, Optimus Primal. He was amazing. And I also loved Rat Trap because he was hilarious. And he was, but when it came down to, when it came down to being who he needed to be, he laid it down. He laid it down. He was a tough cookie, that one. And my favorite, those are my favorites. Fantasia, do you love Transformers? Or do you like Transformers?
I like them. I didn't grow up with them the way you did. My first sort of exposure to them was the Michael Bay movie, unfortunately, and I know that probably is a sacrilege to say.
Wait, are you telling me you've never seen Beast Wars?
No. Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Beast Wars. Oh. I can't believe I'm forgetting that. Yeah, I saw Beast Wars as a kid. I don't know the difference between Beast Wars and Beast Machines. I always thought they were one and the same. I guess not, but I had like a VHS tape of Beast Wars that I got for my 10th birthday that had like 5 episodes on it. And my favorite character in all Transformers to this day, because of that, is my boy Rhinox. I love me some Rhino. The Rhino is my favorite animal, so Rhinox just was a given. I also really liked the design on Megatron in Beast Wars with like all the purple and black. He looked really cool. I saw the first movie with you, like you said. And let me tell you something, Sean, and everybody else listening. If you ever want to be entertained, go see a Transformers movie when Ryan J. Marvel is in the movie theater, because it was literally just, visually is the only way I can do this. So sorry, people who are only listening, but just literally just you reacting, woo, snapping your fingers at the screen, clapping away every time, an Autobot rolled out. So it was, we had that old man who sat behind you, and when the movie ended, he tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Young man, you were the most entertaining part of this whole film for me." So you made that man's day, right? I'm sure that guy did not enjoy seeing Michael Bay explosions, but you saved the day for him. He's never going to forget that.
He probably still tells the story to his grandkids. I'm pretty sure he was a dad at that point, and now he's like a super granddad. But like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I made that movie for him, and he'll forever tell that story. He's like, this Transformers movie is coming out. When I first saw it, there was a guy in that theater.
That's true. Yeah, he's still talking about it. Every time a new one comes out, he's like, gather around, children. You hear about the legacy of the man from 2007.
Let me regale you with the tale.
That first movie holds a little place in my heart because it reminds me of that time and place when, like, it was around the time I met you, and you kind of opened me back into that world of like the old stuff. Because remember, that was a time when YouTube was not what it was. Netflix didn't exist. So looking back at old nostalgic things was still a very hard thing to do. So I only got to start doing that through conversations with you. And you were like, oh my God, remember Beast Wars? And then when the Transformers movie came out, we got to kind of share that experience, be like, whoa, that's right. It's all coming back. So the first movie will forever remind me of that. It has a special place in my heart. For some reason, I own movies 1, 2, 3, and 4 because I thought they were going somewhere, right? I just thought it was all going somewhere. So I was trying to follow along, and then eventually I was like, okay, this is not going anywhere, and I can't handle any more Michael Bay. But I love Bumblebee, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the Rise of the Beasts. Well, welcome aboard, Sean. Yeah.
Welcome aboard, Sean. And speaking of going places, we're going to Quantum Realm. That's right.
Realm. So this is the first, and like, it's crazy. It feels like it's been forever since we've done an Infinity rewatch, even though it was only like 2 months. I guess that's like, it must be because last year was just so full of Marvel that it was a common occurrence to have something. But now we're starting phase 5, and we had this news. I'm sure you saw it. This news came out like maybe last week about Marvel and, well, Disney in particular, but Marvel kind of reining in the quantity of what they're putting out. So they're going to focus on putting out less and just making them the best they can be. I don't know if you saw that. Like Feige was just talking about how they're just trying to not oversaturate things.
I did see this. I had a talk with my brother Nick, who hopefully we can one day get on here.
I know.
And Nick said it himself. He's like, Bob Iger's come back, and the first thing Bob Iger did is he's like, whoa, Marvel, we need to rein it in just a little bit. And Kevin Feige agreed. He's a bit overextended right now. And the problem is he, I wouldn't say trusted too much. It's just the problem is like, he's like, here you go. This is what we want. Go have fun. And they didn't have the same attention to detail as they did with the first kind of, the first 2 phases, because it was still coming off the ground. Whereas this point, it's like, it's in the clouds, it's in cloud 9. So they're just like, hey, let's just make it. Let's just go and do it. And Kevin Feige is all about, he's the project lead. So he's the guy who just signs off on projects now, and the rest is off of his hands. Like, he doesn't really, he has the vision of how he wants things to play out, and he has his producers to help him execute it. But really, he's very high up there now. So he's approving and assigning all the content, and that's it. The rest is up to the rest of the group. So there's not as much attention to detail as there used to be. So that's why there's kind of been these hit and misses, whereas some directors who really know their stuff it's gonna be a hit, and then some directors who don't, it's gonna be a miss, because they don't have the same guidance as they normally would with the older directors, like Jon Favreau and Kevin Feige. Like, that's like, your dynamic duo right there. And even Peyton Reed. Peyton Reed's a huge comic book nerd, so you're in good hands. Same with James Gunn. Like, even for Guardians 3, I'm sure Kevin Feige was just like, yep, you go right ahead. I'll just check up on you every once in a while. But like, it's very much James Gunn. You know what I mean? But like, Oscar award winning, I think it's Chloe Zhao. She doesn't probably know comics as well as, other people. So she's gonna lean towards more her movie experience than her comic experience, and then kind of find a happy medium there.
Right. I know zip about Eternals comics. I'm one of the few people who really likes the Eternals movie, and I'm sure that if you're a diehard Eternals comics fan, there's probably a million things, quote unquote, wrong with that movie, just based on an adaptation standpoint. But I mean, I know there's always give and take when you're adapting things, but this whole idea of reining it in and putting out less per year, I feel like it's not going to be as big a change as a lot of people are afraid it is. Because if you think about it, Phase 4 did start with a lot at once. And I'm looking specifically at 2021, because 2021 had Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, and Spider-Man. So that's 4 movies. And it also had WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, and Hawkeye. 5 shows. So 5 shows, right. 4 movies. That's a lot. But what we have to remember is 2021 was just playing catch up because we missed a year because COVID-19, right?
Right.
That's what that was there for. That's why we had so much all at once. And then when you look back at last year, 2022, what did we have? It was less. It was Doctor Strange, Love and Thunder, Wakanda Forever. So 3 movies. Right. Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, 3 shows, and then a couple of Halloween and Christmas specials.
Yeah, a couple of one-offs.
Yeah, so 3 movies, 3 shows, and like a one-off. I think that's a perfect amount for a year. I think that fills out a year nicely. There were nice little gaps in between, so it wasn't like there was a Marvel thing every week. So if they go with this year, if they go with that same model, 3 movies, which is what we have this Guardians and Marvels, and then 3 shows, and then maybe a one-off, that's not going to be a radical shift. We're not going to feel starved. We're not going to feel a Marvel famine. And
quite the contrary, we'll probably actually feel like we have room to breathe.
Exactly. And they just announced that they're pushing back the Marvels from it's moved from July to November. So it is now going to be a winter movie instead of a summer movie. So what that tells me, Ryan, is maybe the summer is going to be the new home for a show, right? And they just want to move one to make room for the other. The thing about the shows this year is we're really in the dark. We don't know what's coming out when. We know it's probably Secret Invasion, Loki, and something else that I can't remember. But we don't know when they're happening.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just going to move those around. But I think 3 movies and 3 shows sounds good to me. I don't know about you.
Actually, yeah. I mean, I do recall a time when it was just like one movie a year to 2 movies a year, and that felt like an eternity between movies. And we didn't even have shows to fill that void. So, I think it's better to pace it out a little bit. I think it's at a point now where we do need to pace it out a little bit. You hear a lot about exhaustion from casual fans to hardcore fans. Like it's getting to a point now where it's like we need to focus on the quality and impactful moments of from shows and movies, as opposed to just like pumping out content and having to write so much exposition about a character just to fill time. And one thing a fan always hates is when they know you're just filling time to get to something else. And it's so minuscule. It's so like, these events of like all this exposition, so minuscule that it's like, we don't need this. Let's get to the real meat and potatoes here. Right. Like, which kind of reins me back into QUANTUMANIA is really both this movie. Actually, yeah, this movie is kind of wastes no time at all. No. Every scene, every story building moment is like building as quick. It's like assembling a Lego wall. Like it's just like because that's what it needs to be. Because like honestly, at this point, you should know your content, and even if you're new, it gives you just enough to be like, okay, this is where it's at. Like it's not even like. We're not going to tell you too much about why it is where it is, because you should know that. And if you don't, someone will clearly tell you. It's like, okay, buckle up because here's what's going on right now. And it's just like, whoa! Like, it's just like constant, like, here. And then you're just like, oh my God. It's just, because it does. This movie does attack you visually with everything that's going on You know, I think that the movie title Everything Everywhere All at Once or whatever, that is the most apt fitting description of what this movie is, because it is everything everywhere all at once. Because at this point, Phase 4 spent a lot of time building up all these characters and everything, and really all you need to know is Loki show, and then get into this, because that's all that matters. And then it's like, okay, Ant-Man, you know what this character's been through. You know where all the characters have been through at this point. So now we're just going to toss them into a world where time doesn't exist, and just like, okay, let's fix their problems. Go. And yeah, to me, this movie did exactly what I wanted to do. My one rule, from what I've talked to from my friends as well as you, Fantasia, I said, the only thing I need for this movie to work is Kang. If Kang works, then the whole movie works, in my humble opinion, because it's all that matters. And it did. It worked perfectly for me. In fact, the whole movie felt like a Saturday morning cartoon for me. It didn't need Oscar-winning performances. It just needed incredible visuals with fun comic book story elements, and that's exactly what it delivered. And I couldn't ask for more. I literally could not ask for more.
Saturday morning cartoon is a great way to sum up this movie, because it really does feel like that.
Because it wastes no time, and every scene is relevant to the current story, and that's all you need to know. And if you need to know more, they kind of have these small moments of like, last time on this episode, like, you know, and and there's no scene that you know, wastes time. Everything, you have 22 minutes, you got to solve all the problems within the 22 minutes.
And they pull it off. First of all, I want to say thank you to whoever is giving the final okay to these amazing subtitles we're getting on these movies. I'm so thankful we live in a world where some business person was cool enough to be like, you know what? Let's call this movie Quantumania. You know what? Let's call this movie the Multiverse of Madness. In a world where we get bombarded with like just lame ass tired subtitles like The Rise of or Resurrection, right? I'm so glad that somebody creative is like, nah, let's call this movie Quantumania, a word that doesn't even get used in the movie, but it's kind of a fun wink to the audience to be like, yeah, you're in for just insanity. So thank you, whoever made that choice. Thank you so much. And right away, I mean, like, we spend 95% of this movie in the quantum realm. The real world is barely there. So I mean, you and I both left the theater really digging the film. I think we can say that off the bat without giving too much away. We really dig this film. A lot of people in the Twitter world did not dig it. There's a lot of negativity. I mean, but that's Twitter, right? That's Twitter. And unfortunately, we live in that point in time now in the timeline of the existence of the MCU, where it has now become, and I hate saying this, it has now become cool to be contrarian and to just hate on Marvel for existing, right? But one thing that was missing from this movie, Ryan, and I'm wondering if this ticked a lot of people off, is Luis. Who is just a stalwart Ant-Man character who's been part of the Ant-Man series, who's not only missing, but I don't think there's even a mention of Luis, unless I'm mistaken. So curious.
There's no mention of them.
No mention. I'm curious if there was some kind of angry backlash from that, like hashtag where's Luis or whatever. I don't know. But did you feel his absence? Because I didn't really feel like I was missing him because there was so much the movie gave us.
Absolutely. This movie hits you with a lot right out of the gate. And they're fun characters to have, but they weren't needed for this film. In fact, I think you got the because they were probably the driving force of the second one as much, because the second half of Ant-Man and the Wasp, the three wombats as they but they drove the latter half of the story because they needed the help, they needed to help Scott Lang. So this one, because they weren't doing anything in San Francisco, there was absolutely 0 point for them to be needed.
Right. Yeah, so they don't have, I mean, if they had shoehorned them into this film, then you run the risk of people saying, we didn't need Luis. Why is this movie 2.5 hours long? Why do we keep jumping back to the real world to see Luis deal with whatever? I don't know.
Right.
So I'm glad. I mean, obviously, it is a bummer not to see those characters because all three of them are fun, but I'm glad they didn't try to just stuff them in there for the sake of having them in there. That's the beauty of the way Marvel works is I don't like thinking of it like a normal trilogy or normal series where it's like you have to keep everybody in it. This is more like a TV show where just because they're not in this episode doesn't mean they won't be in Ant-Man 4.
Absolutely. I mean, assuming there is an Ant-Man 4 at this point. I mean, because like in my humble opinion, I think if they are going to do, 4, 5, and 6, then obviously even like, because like it's apparent even from the trailers, is Cassie will carry the torch and it will be Cassie's trilogy.
Right.
And, or even the Wasp, like it could be the Wasp's trilogy. But I doubt, personally, it's kind of, this movie kind of completes the journey of everything related to Ant-Man. I don't think you could give more, but you could leave it at that. And I think it's just enough for everybody.
Yeah.
It's just like that's it.
Agreed. So we go into this movie knowing that a certain individual by the name of Jeff Loveness is in charge of telling the story. And Jeff Loveness has told stories in another crazy quantum world called Rick and Morty. I don't know about you, Ryan, but this felt like they don't need to make a live action Rick and Morty now because they already made one and it's Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania, right? Like this looked like a Rick and Morty episode.
It did. It honestly, you could really tell that the writing of Rick and Morty like came through this movie. Because when it's funny, it's funny. There was a lot of laugh out loud moments from the audience. Like it was like, and I don't think it was like kind of like you felt like you had to laugh. Like it was funny. Like it was a really good film in that regard. So you kind of feel different creators work in this one. From Peyton Reed's visuals and overarching storytelling for Ant-Man, plus the comedic writing of the Rick and Morty thing. It worked though, in my opinion. It was kind of like this clash, this what's the word? Constructive interference. Where it built this movie that worked. It worked in the tone that Peyton Reed set with a Rick and Morty style writing that made Scott Lang funnier and like really played up the comedy that he brings to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because he does. That's Scott Lang. He's full of heart, but he's a lighthearted character specifically designed to help lift up whatever's going on, right? Like, you look at the first Ant-Man, like, things are pretty dark, things are pretty grim. Hank Pym is essentially being, no longer useful, and the world's moving on without him. But he's dark because he lost Janet,
right.
And he's very grim about it, and he's lost his relationship with his daughter. And Scott's getting out of jail, trying to connect with his own daughter, who has a new family now because of the cop dad and everything. And he brings all this lightheartedness and reminds people of the joy and kind of the youth that he brings to everybody. And the hope that he brings to everybody, and that's really interesting to me. Even Endgame, like the characters hit like an all-time low point. And the last moment before Scott is introduced, okay, Black Widow is basically telling Cap she has no reason to move forward. She is done. That's it. There's nothing left. Her best friend has gone into like a murderous rampage and the world is like, there's nothing going on. And she's like, and the only thing she had was the world of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury, and she doesn't even have that.
Yeah.
And then Scott Lang comes in and turns the whole thing around. Yeah. So how can you not do a third movie where it has to be the epitome of funny yet intense all at the same time?
And that's exactly what they did. And they set it up with this cool little setup that I was not expecting. Like, I had no idea how they were going to get to the point where they go to the quantum realm and there's Kang. Obviously, the trailers showed us a little bit, but essentially, Cassie's a genius. She's kind of a juvenile delinquent, but she's also a genius.
Yeah.
And they've created this since the last time we have seen these characters. They have sort of formed this really tight family dynamic to the point where Cassie is calling Hank Grandpa Hank, even though there's no relation, right? And we get this great scene where they're sitting together having pizza. And I was thinking of you during that scene, and I'm like, okay, we have all these crazy genius scientific characters and they're sitting around as a family. What did you see there, Ryan, that made you think, okay, take this, put it in Fantastic Four, we got a stew going, right? Because there's something there. There's got to be.
Absolutely. I think they definitely piloted a couple of things to see how it's going to play out, which, in my opinion, it does work. In fact, when Hank Pym was first being introduced, there were moments where I'm like, there was a trailer where there was all these monitors and someone sitting in a chair. And I was like, oh, man, this could clearly be easily the setup for Reed Richards. Like, it's just so clear as day that this could be Reed Richards, and we could just get right into Fantastic Four that way. But yeah, I do feel that they're really kind of introducing that Marvel family element. And I mean, Disney loves family stories, but it's all about how they're retold in the flavors of whatever, team is working on what. So Star Wars, Mandalorian's going to have a family story, and here's how but it's the Mandalorian family story. Marvel, we had, Hank Pym's family story. And it was fun. It was a fun scene. But yes, I definitely got some good old Fantastic Four vibes just because of the different personalities all clashing together in a family setting. And, you have Hope, who's like a super, humanitarian, world genius. You have Hank Pym with the Pym particles. I mean, I will say, man, the movie's pretty vicious about Scott Lang being, useful compared to these people who have like changed the world. Like they're pretty savage towards them. I felt kind of bad. Like,
I know, yeah. Cassie's really mean to her dad here, and that it's crazy because he did help save the world. I get it, and there's Ant-Man has never really been like in the movies, at least, he's never really been shown as like he's a crime fighter. He just is a guy who happens to have this suit and he's trying to do his best. So I don't know how much crime there is in San Francisco. It looks like a pretty clean, wholesome place to live. So I don't know what they're expecting of him. Thanos is gone. Whatever other threats there are probably just being dealt with by other people. But yeah, they were really savage to Scott Lang there, and it was not founded. He's doing his best. He's a good guy.
I mean, he helped the Avengers save the world. I mean, what does he have to do? What does he have to do after that but write a book?
I know, right? I want to buy a copy of that book, by the way.
There's the funny clip about him being the Hulk's baby. Am I the Hulk's baby?
Oh man. Paul Rudd is down to do that whole audiobook too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So Cassie's a genius. She builds a thing that sends a signal to the quantum realm because she basically wants the Hubble telescope her way to map out the quantum realm. And as soon as Janet hears that this is happening, she loses her shit. And she's like, do not send a signal down there. And that's one of the first big things that I want to give kudos to this movie for is we go a long time before we see Kang. We see him in the beginning. That's a lie.
But not as like Kang, essentially.
And we go an even longer, we don't even hear his name until probably about halfway through the movie. So the build up to Kang is so well done because they sell him like he looks like a normal guy. He's not like a big scary alien or a monster. He just looks like a normal, handsome man just walking around in a suit in the quantum realm, right? There's nothing threatening about just the way he looks. but they do such a great job of building him up as such a terrifying threat. And it starts with Michelle Pfeiffer, who, by the way, I hope I aged half as well as she does, because I think she looks even more beautiful now than she did in like Batman Returns. Like Michelle Pfeiffer, just like, what are you doing? Give me some of your water.
She's reverse aging.
Oh my God. She could still play Catwoman. Flash movie. You still got room and time. Put her in there as Catwoman again. But like, she sells it with just the horrified way she reacts to the fact that Cassie is sending signals to the quantum realm. And it just keeps snowballing from there, where I'm so curious. I'd love to get the perspective of somebody who's watching this film who knows nothing about Kang and who didn't even know Kang was a thing. I would love to get their perspective of like what they went through while watching this, thinking like, ooh, who's she so afraid of? And I want to know what was going through their head, because I thought that they sold him as a villain stupendously. And you, Ryan, you really wanted Kang to be done right. So did this help?
Yes. Oh, 100% this helped. Every scene Kang is in is like perfect. I don't think you could have done that scene any better than what they gave you. Like, his performance is so rich and intense, and he does such creative little things. Like, he doesn't have, like, I can't remember one of the approach to his lines, but like, you see him really kind of contain his like rage, because like, he's been exiled on this place for God knows how long, and he's just like, when something doesn't go his way, he like has this moment where he's about to erupt, but he contains it, and then he just tries a more subtle approach, and it's, oh my God, there's so much detail in all the movements of his face. It tells such a story. It's just amazing. But yes, Kang worked, and it's so perfect that Kang worked, because as a Marvel fan, and if you've been watching the Marvel announcements, he has to carry an entire phase. He is the Thanos of this phase.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to work. And it not only, when I say does it need to work, is like, did the comic book version meet the MCU version so well that they're intertwined, and you now have a character that is translated perfectly from the comics to the screen. And yes, they 100% did that. Like, this is, Red Skull, Kang, Thanos, like this, he already instantly has joined the hall of MCU villains that were properly translated to the wonderful world of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh yeah. And I'm scared of this guy now. I'm terrified of what he can do. I think I feel a sneeze coming on. Is it happening? No, it's going away. False alarm.
False alarm.
And you say translating him from page to screen, and again, they did that perfectly, costume and all. Kang always looked like a Lego character to me with that weird thing he wears on his head. So I was like, how are they going to make this not look silly? And they did it. And they managed to do it without radically changing him at all. Like, he looks exactly like Kang in the comics. So again, costume department, like, you guys are rock stars. Now, I'm going to say 3 movie titles to you, Ryan.
Okay.
Because this is an important thing that I think Quantumania needs to be given another round of applause for. So these 3 movie titles are Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy, Black Panther. Okay? And the reason I say those 3 titles is because those are 3 movies that shined a flashlight or a spotlight or whatever on a particular corner of the Marvel world.
Yeah.
And said, look how dense and rich and layered this one little corner of the Marvel universe is. Right? Look at Wakanda. Look at just how much fun you can have in Wakanda.
Yeah.
So those 3 movies, for me, as a guy who loves world building, I eat those movies up like candy. Every time I look at them, I'm like, wow, look at that. Who's that guy? What's that building? What does she do? Right? And now, for the first time, an Ant-Man movie has done that for me. For the first time, Marvel has said, look at the Ant-Man world and look how much fun you can have there. Because yeah, San Francisco's great. Luis and the Wombats are great, but the world of the quantum realm with jelly people and the barbarian lady and all the war that's going on and Kang's blue stormtroopers and Bill Murray and whatever those things are he's drinking, and my personal favorite, that guy with the cannon face who's got like a universe cannon for a face. I'm just like, there's 6 more movies you could have right here. When can we play in this playground again? Actually, I forgot to add Doctor Strange is another one that I would add to that in terms of just like, hey, look at this corner. So world building was taken to 11 in Quantumania. I don't know how you felt about it, Ryan, but for me, it was like the gold standard.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, again, this is exactly where Marvel needs to go. Is you need to show us new, like you need to keep going out before you go in, like, you know, especially before Avengers Infinity War. That's what Chris Pratt was saying. Like, go out, continue, don't let the characters meet, because they need to keep stretching as far as it can go. And then, you know, technically, yes, events should bring them back, but you try to delay it as long as possible, because the further you go out, the more you learn. Like, imagine if Guardians didn't quite meet, you know, the Avengers yet. They probably would have found Nova, you know, and brought back Nova for us. That kind of thing. Like, there's still so much more to do and explore, and they need to continue to do that. And we kind of, you know, we get that fun experience in Quantumania, is we meet newer characters, Kang, and we also meet our boy MODOK. But yeah, but you meet more and more characters. In fact, there's at least I'd say a handful of new characters from the Marvel world in this movie.
Ooh, so some of those characters are comic characters too. Okay.
Absolutely.
I like that. Now I have a science question for you / comic question.
I would never ask me a science question. You stretch the imagination.
It could be both or it could be either. I don't know. But the quantum realm, okay, they say, I think it's Janet who says that it exists outside of time and space.
Yes.
Right? So is that why, because obviously to get to the quantum realm, you got to shrink real to the point where you're like beyond microscopic. So if it's beyond time and space, is that why, you know, every time I take a step in my living room, I'm not crushing the barbarian lady and her friends? Is it because they're outside of time and space? Because if getting into the quantum realm, if they go in through the quantum realm through the thing that they had in Cassie's garage, for example, at the beginning of the movie, does that mean that that barbarian town or wherever they were is just in that garage, and that the whole planet Earth has like a bajillion quantum realm villages, right? How does this work exactly? Help me out here, science.
So I'm going to try to base it this way and just go for it. So it's the Ant-Man shrinks to such a level that he gets down to a subatomic level.
Right.
Therefore, the current constructs that we built around time and space are irrelevant to him, because he's shrunk it down that size. So no, you will not be destroying anything on a subatomic level.
Okay. And in terms of spatial travel, like if they're all standing in that garage at the beginning of the movie when they all get sucked into the quantum realm, they all end up kind of near where the barbarian forces are, right? That lady, they all end up kind of near her area. So
Gentora, right?
Gentora, thank you, Gentora. Yeah. So if I take a plane right now and I go to like Hong Kong, and then in Hong Kong, I open a portal and go into the quantum realm, I can still end up right next to Gentora because space moves differently? Or am I in Hong Kong's quantum realm?
Yeah, again, that's part of science I don't know. I mean, it's possible. I mean, it could be like a pocket dimension kind of thing. It's string theory, I guess. Okay. But yeah, I would say it's possible, but I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination.
So what you're saying is we should both get our PhDs and then come back and do the show at that point.
but that's the beauty of Marvel, man. The more I'm exposed to this stuff, the more I'm kind of interested to see how it works. And Marvel, though they don't do anything super scientifically accurate, Stan Lee, he still did the research enough to add some relevancy to it, saying like this may not be exactly how it works, but in theory, this is how something could work. And it's like if you want to learn more, this is how you do it. That's why he never liked Superman, because he's like, where does Superman get his ability to fly? And he's like, visually, there's no reference for me to understand. And like, yeah, you can talk about gravity and the sun giving him energy, and that's why he flies and all that stuff. But he's like, that's why with Thor, I loved how he swung the hammer to fly, because the hammer helps him fly, right? And that's why Ant-Man, he uses ants to fly. Like no character, when all of Stan Lee's creations don't fly normally, like they need something to help them fly. And especially another good example is Namor. He has the wings on his little ankles.
Right. And personally, that's been something about DC that I always like, is I like how DC is a bit more magic in the way it runs things sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's science too, but it leans more on the side of the supernatural. Like Green Lantern's rings, for example, there's no real sciencey way to explain that. So I like that aspect of it, but yeah, there's science to this. We're just not the right people to explain it. But I think that the idea of it being a pocket dimension seems like that's the most logical thing. Because if you think about it in the sense of physical space, the quantum realm is so tiny compared to us that if what we saw in the movie was just the quantum realm of this one garage in San Francisco, then it's endless. The breadth of this thing would be endless. So let's talk, Ryan. Let's talk about MODOK.
I loved how they introduced him. I mean, like the movie does a great job setting up things, like setting up Kang, and when Kang comes, oh my god, when Kang fully actualizes as Kang, it's just a beautiful moment, and Kang was no different. You know, they kept saying they'll send him, you know, and then Bill Murray, I think, gets to introduce him first, if I'm not mistaken. And he's like, they send a machine that's only designed for killing, and then and they do, you know, it's the movie's so fast paced that, but if you take a moment or to appreciate what's happening, is that they introduce Kang like a comic book. They have like one of his weapons in a single shot frame, all the weapons he's using in single shot frames, and then the final shot is him swooping into the scene, and you get this shot of him, and it's just like, it's MODOK, you know, like, and they did kind of a clever thing, which again kind of makes me think like this was always the plan, but I wasn't 100% sure. But like people thought that the gold face Kang is like his face, and like that's what he looks like throughout the entire movie. I don't think that was the case from the beginning. I feel like they had a plan, and they stuck with the plan, and so they showed, and so it's kind of like a helmet for him, and then the helmet goes away, and you see Darren essentially, which I kind of knew that they weren't going to go with a comic accurate identity of Kang. He looks like Kang, he moves like Kang, his relationship with other characters, he looks like MODOK, he acts like MODOK. And his relationship with other characters is exactly like MODOK, but it's just a different. It's Darren. So
right.
Like which it makes sense within the construct of the MCU. It's at a point now where we will get comic accurate characters, but the backstory has to be related to the work that the MCU has done at this point. You can't just introduce whatever his name is, George Carlton or whatever, Tarleton or whatever. It has to be Darren, because like, why else would you introduce MODOK?
Right. I mean, I think a lot of people have gone sour on MODOK. A lot of like the Twitter folks have really just not taken to MODOK very well because of this inaccuracy between the comics. But it's like you're saying, you've got to make these little adjustments. It's not going to be a 1-to-1 scale. And I don't think anybody should want it to be, because a 1-to-1 scale is not going to work as well.
No.
I mean, look at Sylvie. Everybody loved Sylvie. That's an amalgamation of several characters. So is He Who Remains, right? You're going to get these little things that are just easier on the palate of Marvel fans if they stick them together. So yeah, get Darren in there. And I loved it. It created this really fun running gag in the film, because he keeps interacting with the heroes in intermittent kind of staggered playouts, right? He doesn't meet them all at once. So you get that fun thing of every time he shows up, one of the heroes is like, Darren? It's always this thing of like, Jesus, what happened to you? So I loved getting to look forward to that. Like, you see him creeping up on Hank, and I'm like, oh my God, Hank is going to have a funny reaction to seeing Darren's face on this MODOK thing. And he turned out to be so much fun. He was ridiculous. He was ugly. He was funny. He was dangerous, right? He was just this big head with all these weapons. It's exactly MODOK to me.
Yeah. And he actually, and he does like scientific things. Like, he talks about how to get what Kang requires, and he does like does cool things to do that. But in the end, he, the villains having their moments, and then Kang would interrupt, being like, perhaps you should do it this way, and then they just like swat him away.
Yeah.
But in the end, here's the thing: if they look the look, they walk the walk, and talk the talk, then you got your translation. You know what I mean? Like, you got what you need. The backstory may not be comic accurate, but it's, for me, I've always said this through this entire Infinity Rewatch series, is the Marvel formula has always been and always will be, the events may be like comic accurate, but how they get there will always adapt to what the MCU is doing.
Yes. And to people who hated the way MODOK was depicted in this movie, let me remind those people. 20 years ago, if this was 2003 and this movie came out, 100% that what I'm about to say is what would happen. MODOK would have just been a guy in a suit with like a yellow tie, and he's like, hello, my name is Morty Doxson. And then he spends the whole movie like that, and then maybe for like one scene at the end of the movie, his face is on a big computer screen, and the director's like, huh? See? That's what we would have gotten.
Exactly. So, 100%. Take a look at the X-Men movie, the original X-Men movie.
Exactly. So thank your lucky stars, we got the MODOKs that we did. And I think it was perfectly suited to how I grew up with MODOK, because to me, he's always been a henchman. Just based off the Iron Man cartoon, he was always Mandarin's henchman. I've never seen him as like a main antagonist in anything. So I think that it was just all the right moves to take this ridiculous character in. So MODOK made me super happy. I love the purple on like his weapons. Like, it all just looked brilliant.
Yeah, I love how he had the pink saw.
Yeah. And he spends like the final act of the movie actively trying to kill a minor, just trying to kill a teenage girl. Like, he is bananas, this guy. It is beautiful how they handled MODOK. One character that we didn't end up seeing, and I want to ask you what you think they're going to do with this, is a little lady by the name of Ravonna Renslayer. Did not show up in Quantumania. I was thinking we would get her in like a flashback.
Yeah.
With Kang talking about how he ended up where he is. So no Renslayer. What do you think this means? Where's she going to fit into things?
Well, it's just not this Kang. That's as simple as the answer gets. It's just not that Kang that has Princess Ravonna. And it's kind of funny because Princess Ravonna Renslayer, she, how do I phrase this? How is she a princess and he isn't a king? He's a conqueror, but he's not labeled as a king. So clearly, I thought Gentora was supposed to be Renslayer.
Oh, okay.
And he comes and conquers her kingdom, and she has to be with him, kind of thing. You know what I mean? But clearly, it's just this isn't that Kang. We haven't found that Kang who has Princess Ravonna. In fact, again, I think Loki season 2 may have the Kang and Ravonna pairing, but this isn't that Kang. Although this Kang, comic book wise, would have been that Kang, like the attitude, the way he does his things. But it's just in this MCU world, this variant clearly doesn't have Ravonna.
Right. That makes sense. I have to keep remembering that variants are a thing, especially with Kang, because that seems to be what he's all about. The Ravonna thing, I only ever learned from you, from what you told me about it, but it seems like that was the main driving force behind everything he's doing. And I think the Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes cartoon really played to that.
They do a beautiful job. The way they set up that story, and it's very similar to the comics, is that they use the cosmic cube, which essentially whoever touches it can realign their universe to whatever they wish. And so Cap touches it to bring back Bucky, and then Bucky gets captured by Russia. Right. Russia turns him into the Winter Soldier. And Winter Soldier. There you go. Bucky's back. And then because of that sends a ripple effect through the time stream, and it ends up shifting Kang's perfect world in year 4000 or whatever. And so Kang's perfect world is being rewritten, and so he has to take his Damocles base and get out of that timeline and then move back through the timeline in order to stop the events. And so because of the events, he understands only the history that's been made. He has to go back and fix it. So yeah, it's just, this isn't that Kang. This Kang was clearly motivated by being exiled, and he wants to, go back to conquering and start the wonderful secret war.
And I'm assuming, it's hard to tell with Marvel, but it looks like this Kang ended the movie dead. Like there's no coming back from what happened to him. So whatever Kang shows up in the Avengers forthcoming films is going to be a different variant of Kang who also just wants to conquer and kill and maybe search for his lost love.
Well, yeah, exactly. Essentially, I think what's with the recurring theme is that we're just going to constantly see different variants, and yeah, which will bring us to our end credit talk later. But yeah, I think at this point, which is kind of interesting because we'll get to see again just constant different variations of this character, and for Jonathan Majors, it's perfect because he's going to be playing different characters every single time.
This is a dream come true for an actor, man. He looks like he's having so much fun playing all these variants. Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, I love Jonathan Majors, but I'm also a little bit jealous of Jonathan Majors because of the fun it looks like he gets to have right here.
You get two solid looks at two very different characters. If you look at Loki and Quantumania, it's two very different characters.
Yes, and I'm hoping that the one that we spend the most time with in Avengers is a healthy mix of the two, because I really like the idea of the main villain being kind of crazy, like He Who Remains, right? Like that was a fun play off, and it was very different from Thanos. So yeah. I liked that disparity between the two. In terms of Kang, though, one thing I wanted to know from you is his powers and abilities. Am I correct in assuming that he does not have any superpowers per se? He is just from a future that is so advanced that he can basically tap a thing on his wrist and break your bones. Is that what I'm going? Okay.
Yeah. So, well, they kind of describe it in the movie that his tech is based on his intuition. The technology is so forward that it responds to thought. That's how good his technology is.
Okay. So
which fun fact on YouTube, this video does exist. A guy programmed Minecraft to respond to his thoughts. Now, you may go, holy crap, he's playing Minecraft with his mind. But he was only able to move a character forward and mine. Just two simple actions. It's all he was able to accomplish. but he was able to get the game to read a value based on a thought he was projecting. And so he was able to change the code from 0 to 1 because he had to. But what's funny is you see him sitting there and he's just like sitting there and he's really focusing. And it came down to he had to still himself so much that thought could be read. And it's funny because they do it in the first Ant-Man is like, how do you get the ants to do things is you have to make your thoughts precise and clear. And that's exactly what he had to do, was he had to make his thoughts precise and clear. And he had to quiet himself pretty much.
So this guy's a wizard, is what you're telling me.
A technical wizard, yes.
I feel like if he started with like Super Mario Brothers 1, he might have had an easier time with it, because Minecraft has a lot of menus and things, right? Just move and jump. Move and jump is all you need. But wow, good for him. That's incredible and frightening.
But Kang, it's all like he could just do.
So even if Cassie was not locked in that cell, if she was just walking around free, could he still be like beep beep and then like throw her into a wall? Could he still do that?
Well, yeah, you see him do it. Like he does it in the cell. He flips her around and like pushes her into the wall.
But is that just because she's in a cell? Like, is the cell does it have?
No, he kind of has like a field around, like that bubble you saw, that bubble around him.
Mm-hmm.
He can like essentially project matter onto somebody and manipulate that matter. Best example, 0 point energy in Incredibles, kind of like
okay, Syndrome, right? So he's got all of this, but what I like about it is it's still a normal man in there. So like you could theoretically be like, hey Kang, and you would probably, if you catch him by surprise, you'd probably end the secret war pretty quick, right?
Yeah, if you catch him without his armor, it's very possible.
Okay, neat. That's one thing. One of the reasons why I don't like the X-Men villain Apocalypse is just like nothing hurts me ever. So I'm glad there's like this cool little give and take. There's a lot of strength, but you can still theoretically get things done if you need to fight Kang. Now, Bill Murray. How'd you like this cool little character that he ends up giving us?
I think it's fun. I honestly, I don't think it hurts. I don't think it hurts the Marvel Cinematic Universe at all. I mean, he did play a Marvel character from the comics. The character is real. It does exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he was just fun. He was just a fun character. He didn't really bring any gravity to the movie or anything. He helped drive the narrative, and that's all he needed to do. And it's just fun to have another. I think what they're trying to do is bring in these very, Hollywood level actors to kind of get Hollywood to accept them a little bit more, right? Because you had Anthony Hopkins, you had Robert Redford of all people, which in our humble, going to college, I was told that would never happen. I was told to my face that Robert Redford would never be in a Marvel film.
You should have made him. You should have made a bet.
I should have made him bet. I really should have. But I'm sure obviously it's a good business move regardless for Robert Redford. I'm sure, you can look at it very much the business way and be like, oh yeah, he clearly did it for the money. Sure. Yeah. But this man is like sitting on top of the acting throne and he's just like, he doesn't have to do it.
No.
Doesn't. I'm sure Robert Redford has made more than enough money in his lifetime. Why did he do it? Probably because he has grandkids or he has relatives who have kids and he wanted to be in a movie they would recognize. That's why Raul Julia played in Street Fighter. 100% the reason. Did he care about the film? No. But his kids did. And he told his kids, what would you rather see me do? Would you rather see me do this kind of film or this kind of film? And he said, well, it'd be cool if you did the Street Fighter movie. He did it. And was it the best thing that happened in the movie? Absolutely it was.
It was.
Right? It was so fun to watch him in that film. It was
diabolical.
He was the best villain. He was the best villain. And if you watch any of the clips on YouTube, the most popular ones are any one where he's talking, because it's so good to watch.
And it's like I'm doing scene from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid with one of my acting classes.
Yeah.
And I have a student who's playing Sundance, and they're like, oh, maybe I'll watch the movie because I told my dad I'm doing the scene, and my dad said I should watch the movie. And I asked them, I said, are you an MCU fan by any chance? They're like, yeah, I like the MCU a lot. And I said, you remember Alexander Pierce, Winter Soldier, whatever? Yeah, that's Sundance. And their face lit up like, right? So that's exactly why you do these kinds of things, actors, because you get that reaction. So,
And like it's the same with Bill Murray. I'm sure Bill Murray has like relatives. I think he just thought it was a good idea, and he's just like, you know what, I'll just come and hang out with this film. Why not?
And he did. I think personally, I'm not a huge fan of the one type of character that Bill Murray is always playing, right?
Yeah.
I know that's gonna make people hate me forever, but that type of just like nothing phases me, I'm monotone all the time, that doesn't really jive with me. But I thought as an actor, he did some really cool, subtle stuff I've never seen Bill Murray do before. In Quantumania, of all things, he was playing a guy who came across to me as like, I'm a little bit jaded. I'm a little bit hurt because I thought I had a thing with you, Janet. So when you left, of course I sided with the crazy tyrannical despot because, I'm pissed off and I'm bitter. So bye, I'm going to sell you out. And he had like, 4 minutes of screen time, but it told so much about this guy based on what he did and how he treated them. And again, it painted this fun little world building picture of like, there's this whole history of Janet being a rebel, fighting alongside him, having all these confrontations with Kang's empire in the quantum realm. And it's just, his whole scene did a lot of backstory, headcanon, world building for me, and I loved it a lot for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, it was perfect. It was just, again, all you needed from him, and he was fun. And I do agree with you. I like that. Essentially, it definitely came from a sense of jealousy, in the sense of like, you came in as this. This is where I think some people had a huge disconnect with the movie, because I don't think they did enough to show how impactful Janet was in the quantum realm. She was praised as like what could have been the pivotal factor in turning everything around, and she abandoned them, and now they're all hating her for it. And they could have spent more time on that, but again, this movie doesn't waste time. You got more than you needed from Bill Murray's character about what happened, and then Michelle Pfeiffer talks about it later on, and you get even more. You get as much as you need to move forward with it.
Yeah, it gives you all that information in that one little scene that's like straight out of the Star Wars cantina, and we got some great stuff from Bill Murray from it. So beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't think, is there any other major beats we haven't covered before we get to the final credit scenes here? What are we missing?
Overall, Cassie was a fun character. I think Cassie is a great addition to the Marvel universe. As long as that writing kind of sticks with her, I think she'll definitely carry the Scott Lang torch really well, and I look forward to seeing her in other projects for that. So yeah, I don't think there's any other beats we need to worry about. The movie, the final war scene is just absolute fun, and they do a good job of kind of. I think this is where it felt like a Saturday morning cartoon to me. It's exactly a Marvel how to beat a villain. You know what I mean? Like they use their talent in order to circumvent the villain's master plan, and then boom, everybody wins. The hero wins. And so yeah, I think they did a great job with that, and it was a great kind of way to beat the villain and have fun with it. Just watching Kang do his thing was just pure cinematic glory. Oh my god, from him actualizing into Kang with the armor and just having that pose, this coming down savior pose that he does. I love it so much. And just any scene he has where he's talking to the hero, like where he's talking to Scott, is really good. And just, oh my god, when he's talking to Janet, it's so good. I just had so much fun watching Kang, and really, and the reviews are all the same. They're like, the movie was it's okay, or like people loved it or hated it, but every person who loved or hated it all said the same thing. Kang is amazing.
Did you have a favorite Kang line or Kang moment?
My favorite kind of Kang moment, if you will, is two scenes. One is the war scene when he like completely turns the tide himself, and he's like, "I am Kang," and I am Kang.
Yeah,
You know, it's just so good. And the second one is when he dismisses MODOK in the jail scene. It's just, oh my
Ooh.
god!
Don't talk when I'm around. That one, yeah.
It's just, don't talk when I'm speaking, and like, just you feel it. You feel it. Any scene, you feel it. It's just, gorgeous.
He's so frightening. I think for me. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say, and they brought back Kang's chair. They even made Kang's chair almost comic accurate, which is pretty dope.
Yeah, his little time chair. It's part of his ship. For me, the one that stuck with me the most was when he first sees Janet and Hope. And he does this thing with his face where I'm going to try to do it to the best of my abilities on this camera here. But he's looking at Hope. Oh, sorry, he's looking at Janet and he's talking to her. And then his eyes just kind of flit to Hope. And he goes, "Hey, Jelly Bean." And then he looks back at Janet like
Terrifying. Terrifying.
That tells you so much of what you need to know about this guy. Like, he knows, he remembers, and he is absolutely going to use her as leverage. I went into this movie actually thinking Kang was going to kill Hope, because we knew going in there was going to be a backstory with him and Janet. So I didn't think Hope was going to make it out alive. I'm actually surprised that all the characters did make it out alive. But yeah, we ended up with a full roster. Nobody's dead except probably that version of Kang. But that doesn't matter because after the first mid-credit scene, they made it abundantly clear that you kill one Kang, and just like a Hydra, another head rises up to take its place. So we get the Council of Kangs. And again, you know, I can't help but think Jeff Loveness, when he was writing the Council of Ricks, was just like, one day I'm going to write about Kang.
You know where he got that from, right?
Is it from the Council of Kangs?
It's come from the Council of Kangs. Well, not only that, but there's also the Council of Reeds. And and Rick is based off of Reed Richards. Like the characters, the way the character deals with people and everything is a much more exaggerated version, but the emotions and thoughts are there. Essentially, is like he's just bitter and really factual about things to a point where it's very depressing. But that's where he got the whole Council of Ricks. Is he got it from Marvel when they did the Council of Reeds and the Council of Kangs.
Ryan did not vacuum this couch.
Ryan did vacuum the couch. There is a variant where Ryan did vacuum the couch quite thoroughly, but there will always be different cabbage variants shedding fur on the couch.
That's true. I was there, Isabella. I saw that variant vacuuming. And he was like, "What's up on the variant?" Yeah, so. And this council is full of all the Kangs, and particularly the three who seem to be in charge, which I could not believe we saw this on a big screen and that it was finally happening. And dear God, movie theaters, stop turning the lights on during Marvel credits. You should know better by now.
Especially this the scene's pretty dark, so it's hard to see.
Remember Eternals? Like, Eternals was so dimly lit that when that credit scene happened, I'm like, I think that's Harry Styles. I don't know. Like, but we see Rama Tut, who just like, wow, I can't believe I saw Rama Tut on the big screen. We see the Scarlet Centurion, and we see Immortus.
Yeah.
And of the three of them, it seems like Immortus is the one like at the top of the pyramid here, calling all the shots. But those three looks like they're leading the charge. I'm gonna open up the floor to you, Ryan, and ask you, what you thought of this, what you know about these characters, and where this might be going. But all I have to say, based on my limited knowledge, is I know that Immortus is bad news, and that he's going to be a playable character in Marvel United when we finally get that next year. No Rama Tut and no Scarlet Centurion, but we are getting in the game. We're getting Iron Lad as a hero. And I know that's a Kang variant. But all I can say about this scene is Immortus, it sounds like Jonathan Majors is channeling Saw Gerrera from Rogue One here. I was just waiting for him to be like,
Forgot it.
Forgot it! You came here to kill me!
Oh, I love that voice. Oh my god.
So tell me about these three. Why does Immortus talk this way, and why should we be afraid of them?
Okay, well, I'll take out the why does Immortus talk this way first because it's pretty straightforward. It's just an acting choice.
Okay.
I think because this man is the like essentially one of the older or one of the eldest Kangs. Then yes, that's why he probably talks that way. Why should we be worried? Because there is actually a nice little nod, especially with Rama Tut. There's a nice little nod in Moon Knight with one of the barcodes. If you scan it, it's a West Coast Avengers comic where it was all the variants of Kang versus all the variants of Moon Knight, all clashing together. So yeah, that's the big kind of thing why. And yes, you should be worried with Immortus because Immortus is going to kick off essentially the Secret Wars. He's the instrumental factor that helps shape the Secret Wars. So they essentially they literally that scene is the same kind of gravity that Thanos brought when you first said like to kill them is to court death.
I see. Okay, so when it comes to Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, is for lack of a better term, is the final boss Kang going to probably be Immortus, or is it going to be more a Kang that looks like the one we saw in Quantumania?
The final boss Kang is definitely Immortus.
Okay,
is the biggest bad.
Wow, interesting. All right, and what do these three Kangs want?
Well, it's not what they want. It's what's happened is that 2 Kang variants have been killed by just various people. But the fact that it's happening and that doesn't Kangs always win. And for them not to win is insulting. And they're starting to show weakness. And if they lose, then there's just going to be chaos because they believe it's their way or the highway because they're just the super powerful being that's transcended time itself. And now 2, especially Kang the Conqueror, who is tough to beat, was beaten by an Avenger. And that's always been kind of the Kang comic runs is like Kang comic runs mostly have been there's for some reason Earth 616 version of the Avengers cannot be beaten, and they're trying to figure out why.
Wow. Okay. So they are in this scene. They're reacting to the fact that like, oh my god, another one of us got killed, and it's this batch of people from 616 again who are doing it. So that kind of painted a target on this universe's back, right?
Yeah.
That's them saying like, essentially you've killed 2 Hornets, and the Hornets are sending pheromones to the Hive saying threat, and now the Hive is turning to look at us, and we're like, oh god, right? That's what's happening here.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, this is terrifying, especially because of the way Immortus talks, right? He's all of us. So I'm looking forward to seeing that happen again. And then we got to pan out and see this giant council of all these Kangs.
I thought I saw an Nihilus. It turns out it was a Skrull variant. But it was darn close. It was because the lights were on in the theater.
Exactly. You turn the lights off, movie theaters. In fact, I have an actual quote here in the parking lot after the movie. I have written down exactly what you said. Quote, Andrew, I thought I saw Christine Everhart, who is going to be a nihilist. You were 100% right. You are so smart and also handsome. End quote.
I mean, majority of that is true. There's a part of it that's not.
Yeah, that's okay. We got plenty to worry about without having a nihilist come into the picture. We got lots of Kangs to worry about. And then our end credit scene. And I love when the movies do this. Like I keep thinking back to Shang-Chi and Eternals, where both of the scenes are very important scenes. It's not just like an important one and then a joking one. I love when that happens. So we get the Council of Kangs, and and I thought the end credit scene was going to be a jokey one. I told you it was probably going to be Luis being like, "Hey, I missed everything," right? But instead, we get, I think his name is Joseph Timely. This version of Kang, who's from like the 1900s. Is it something Timely?
Something to that, yeah.
And he's talking about time travel, and lo and behold, who should be listening but Loki? And wow, Mobius is there too. This is exciting. That's as good a trailer for Loki season 2 as any, right there.
Absolutely. I mean, what's crazy is that we still don't know what exactly happened at the end of Loki. We know he switched. We know he's obviously back to a different, which brings a lot of context to the statue now in the end of Loki. So what happened to that world, and why is this young variant like a thing? And what's interesting is, of course, it's a great demonstration of history repeating itself, right? Because the Conqueror had the multiversal engine, and now this young variant has created a multiversal engine,
right? And now,
so I'm curious if because remember that time and space is irrelevant, right? So if a multiversal engine is created, what if he accidentally opens to when Kang is trying to escape the Conqueror, right? And he comes back,
which would create another variant, a variant where he didn't stay in the quantum realm and get killed by Ant-Man.
Exactly.
Oh boy, this is going to be a very heady.
This is exciting, is what this is. This is hella exciting. This is a great kickoff to Phase 5, and it kind of brings back to the charm of the first saga, which was it had a pace and it had to keep up with where it's going. And now it's like Phase 4 was kind of like there wasn't a really strong pace to it, but now it's kind of syncing up to go like now it's kind of getting the reins and being like, okay, we're going to Kang, and now this is why we're going to Kang. And I have a theory that based on the end credit sequence of Shang-Chi, that that device is going to open the portal to bring Kang into.
No, don't open it, Shang-Chi. Just go to karaoke instead.
The 10 rings, because the ring technology was Kang. Kang had all the rings around his chair, right?
Oh, that's right. Oh, crap. Okay. So this is scary. I love the idea that we're just going to keep seeing Jonathan Majors pop up. He's just going to be wearing different hats. God, he must be having so much fun. What a like dream acting job that is.
Yeah.
And if Loki season 2 is them hunting down a different Kang variant every episode, I think that could be really exciting.
Yeah.
And it might go in that direction. Who knows? Again, that's a show that's supposedly coming out this year. We don't have a release date. We don't even have a release month. It's just maybe 2023. We'll see what happens there. But in the meantime, I think this movie has told us we can look forward to it's Kang's world now, and we're just living in it. Right.
Absolutely. And it's gonna be fun. This is gonna be a fun saga.
I'm so excited. So
this is the Empire Strikes Back of what Phase 1 was supposed to be.
Yes, of what Saga 1 is.
This saga, yeah.
The Infinity Saga was A New Hope.
Phase 4 was A New Hope.
There you go.
Oh my God, Phase 4 and Episode 4. Oh my God, mind blown.
So I hope this means Phase 6 has Ewoks. If it doesn't, I'm out.
So all we need to know about this phase is that it's the Empire Strikes Back. So it's Kang striking back, left, right, and center. So in our Marvel character list here, we got all these new Quantum Realm characters, right? We got what's her name? The barbarian lady? Jentora.
Jentora, thank you.
Jen Tora, played by the fabulous Katie M. O'Brien. Very lovely lady. Great shape. Fantastic shape.
She was beautiful. I was like, more Gentora, please.
She's actually a well-credited stunt woman, which is really awesome to see.
Nice. I actually saw somebody on Twitter say, if they want to bring back Cara Dune in The Mandalorian, and they kind of pointed at Katie O'Brien, and I'm like, hey, that's okay with me.
Absolutely.
So
we also got Lord Krylor, who is played by Bill Murray, who is also a Marvel character.
Right, Krylor. Okay, yeah. And, of course, our boy MODOK. Even though
hold on, my speaker dead.
Oh. Even though it's technically still Yellow Jacket in the MODOK suit.
There.
We got
Sorry,
MODOK.
say it again.
I was just talking about how I'm adding MODOK to the list.
Oh, yeah, we got our boy MODOK.
Yeah, MODOK is there. And I think that's every. Do I already have Kang from the Loki show? Yeah, I already put Kang when we were doing Loki.
But you got Immortus as well.
Oh, you're right. Oh my God, thank you. Immortus, Rama Tut, and Scarlet Centurion. Okay, so I better add these. I don't know why Immortus made me as excited as it did, but him and Rama Tut, like, they were very welcome additions to all of this. And I hope there's a nice Immortus action figure soon, because I wouldn't mind one of those. I even want a Kang action figure just because he looks so nice. And I don't even typically buy the Marvel figures just because I know if I buy one, I'll want to buy more. And there's only so much I can do. So, all right. So we got all those characters. Does it make sense, Ryan, to add Kang to our cemetery? Kang the Conqueror, at least. Is he dead?
Yeah. I think that's. Well, I mean, no. No, I wouldn't put him in there yet.
You wouldn't put him in there? All right, we'll leave.
Not until after Loki season 2.
That's fair. We'll leave that where it is. So now all that's left to do is for us to give it our rating. From 0 Infinity Stones to 6 Infinity Stones, or a big ol' Infinity Gauntlet, or 2 Infinity Gauntlets. What are you rating this thing, Ryan?
I will say that I recently saw a list of ranking the entire MCU, and the first movie it was Eternals, followed by Ant-Man Quantumania, then followed by Thor: Love and Thunder, then Ant-Man Quantumania, then Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. Which, to me, I really love Multiverse of Madness. I don't know why it was rated so low.
So wait, this list you saw, those were all at the bottom?
Those were the bottom. They did the bottom first, yeah.
This person liked all those movies less than Iron Man 3, huh?
Yeah, right.
Wow. Okay.
Which blows my mind.
Okay.
Which is funny because if you look at the audience scores for a lot of them, there's like a stark difference. Like it's pretty insane. So,
do you want me to tell you what you rated the first 2 Ant-Man movies?
Yes, please tell me.
You and I both gave both of them 5 stones.
Huh. I'll give this one. I won't give this one a gauntlet. Only because, is it a perfect movie? No. Is it a great movie? Yes. So I will give it 6.
6 stones. All right.
Only because Kang just pushes that meter so far. Because every scene with Kang is just cinematic glory. It's so good.
Kang really does help put it there. I think I'm also giving it 6 stones.
Hey!
We're on the same page here. The only thing that keeps it from a gauntlet for me is, I think you brought this up earlier in the episode, there was a lot of room to give Janet an arc, or Scott an arc, or Cassie an arc, and I feel like none of them had one. There was no real character growth for the heroes. It was just kind of putting the established characters in a new predicament and saying, okay, get out of the predicament. And that was entertaining as hell to watch, but it was just not a story where the characters learned or changed in any way. I thought Cassie was going to, based on how the movie started with her ending up in jail a lot, but she really is just the same person at the end as she was in the beginning. And I thought the final scene was a little bit lackluster. Bless you. I thought it was a little bit of just a lackluster final scene of them just eating dinner, and then it just kind of goes to black. So they could have maybe done more with ending that on either a more hopeful note or a more scary note, or just kind of picking a lane. But other than that, I had so much fun with it. So I think 6 stones is the right place to rank Quantumania. And in terms of our bet that we had on how long all these movies are going to be, let me know what you think we should do in this case, Ryan, because with all the other movies, when we guessed the runtimes, you and I had different runtimes. But for Quantumania, we both guessed 2 hours, 10 minutes. We both had the exact same guess, and we were both wrong. It was, I think, 2 hours, 3 minutes or something.
2 hours and 5 minutes.
2-5. Thank you. So we were both off by 5 minutes. So I think we should just call this a draw for this. What do you think?
I would agree. I think it's a tie.
Yeah. So that will stay as it is. I think you're still winning this. Hold on.
I think I was winning because I had like 3 in a row where I almost nailed it.
You won the Shang-Chi, you won the Eternals, you won Doctor Strange, and you won Love and Thunder. And I won Spider-Man and Black Panther.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Dang.
I don't think any of us ever got it exactly right. I'll have to double check that. But next is Guardians Volume 3, so we'll see how close we get to that.
Mm-hmm.
My pick was longer, so I hope I'm right.
Yeah, that one's going to be nuts.
Well, that is Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, everybody. We did it. We got to Phase 5. We lived long enough to see Phase 5. Remember when we were still like, when Kevin Feige said, hey, that Avengers movie, it's just Phase 1. Remember how that
Yeah.
So here we are now, 5 phases in. The next thing that I think is supposed to be happening is Secret Invasion. Is that still 100% the next thing?
Still 100% as far as we know.
Okay. So next time we see each other, we will be in a very scrolly mood. And whenever that happens, obviously you can come here to either the Digital Charcuterie YouTube page and watch us, or to just your local podcast distributor and listen to us. Until that happens, Ryan, where can the good people find you?
As always, you can find me on my YouTube work channel, which I do recommend you check out, as we do produce a lot of really cool content, which is youtube.com/expertzone. And then you can always find me on twitch.tv/Xbox Canada, streaming the latest and greatest Xbox games there. And then if you want to just, talk to me personally or just check out my personal content, once in a blue moon, I'll post on Instagram. So that's probably where you'll find me the most.
That's right. He cooks some delicious meals on Instagram.
I do.
Ryan needs a cooking show. You can find me on the Twitter and the Instagrams at Andrew Fantasia, where I will be spending the majority of my time in the coming weeks pimping out my new fantasy novels, We Were Wizards, which is coming out this Friday, February 24th, is when it'll probably be live on Amazon, and you can purchase them there. So please look forward to that. And then, of course, you can find me on the Rebel Scum Podcast Network and on my own Andrew Fantasia YouTube channel as well. So that's it for Quantumania, everybody. And that's it for today's Infinity Rewatch. We're going to see you all next time when some scrolls show up. Until then, please have a marvelous day.